get out all the creases and keeping the copper foil centered. Very painstaking process, and very important to make sure that all of the copper foil is laid down evenly to ensure a good fit. As you can see, each and every single pattern piece has to be copper foiled and then put back into their place, making sure that everything fits properly. On some of the designs we have as many as 3,000 pieces, and still each small piece has to be individually copper foiled. The next process is to assemble each of the individual copper foiled pieces onto the surface of a fiberglass form. They're allowed to stick by using a wax material that's put on the back of the glass, and by pressing into the form, sticks immediately to that surface. This allows the artisan to rearrange the pieces perfectly in place, trying to get out any of the gaps that might exist, wanting to ensure a perfectly laid down solder line. The next process is the application of the flux, which you see being applied to the copper foil edges, and that ensures a very clean and easy flow of the solder once we apply that to the copper foil. The next process is to apply lead-free solder, perfectly safe solder, that is applied by tacking each of the pieces initially so that they stay in place while the rest of the piece can be fully soldered. So this is just the very initial stages of the soldering, and it's not until the whole design is tacked down that he can go to the next process. The next process, after all of the parts have been soldered together, is to remove the shade from the mold and to start the process all over again. After fluxing, we need to solder each of the joints again to strengthen the integrity of the shade, making sure that we have solder both on the outside and inside. You'll notice also that there's a reinforcing ring that's used around the outside rim of the shade in order to fortify and strengthen the overall shade so that it doesn't bend out of shape. The last process is applying a patina on the silver solder, which adds the bronze coloration, which is very indicative of the original Tiffany's. And after that process is done, the shades are cleaned, taking off all the excess patina. And the last process is then putting a very fine wax finish on the surface to protect the lead solder from any further oxidation. In the final stage of the manufacturing, we solder a brass vase cap to the very top of the shade, and then our inspectors meticulously look very closely for any imperfections in the glass or in the construction of the product. One of the most frequently asked questions is this really glass or is it plastic? And the fact of the matter is, this is more expensive glass than that of crystal itself. The reason that it has this deadening sound to it is because it's connected with a network of over 2,000 pieces. And that really doesn't allow it to sound like you think that glass should sound. If I can demonstrate on a piece of crystal, this is what we're used to hearing. But the fact of the matter is, once you connect this up together, like all of the solder joints that you see here, when you hit the glass, it has that same deadening sound to it, and it feels that same way. So rest assured, the Quoizel collectibles are always made of real art glass. What are the things that really distinguish the Quoizel collectible from all others? Well, let's take a look. You'll see here that we have created this beautiful floral design which has a very dimensional, lifelike image to it. And we can create that because of the amount of pieces that we use to develop this beautiful detail. We use gradations of colors, which also makes like the flower is coming out from the vine. So the colors that you pick and the amount of pieces that you use is what truly makes our products look authentic. Now, in contrast to that, when you look at our competitors' products, you'll see that they use very large pieces of glass, and there's very little gradation of color to develop this floral design. So it's very flat and lifeless. So be aware of the differences between a Quoizel collectible and the competition. Another important quality characteristic of the Quoizel collectible is the consistency of the silver beading that connects and joins all of these 2,000 pieces. Note that today we only use solder that is lead-free. Now the beading has to be consistent so that when you look down the line of a bead that you can see through here, it should pretty much be the same width. If you look at our competitor's product, you'll see that it goes from thick to thin. And that is not the mark of a quality piece. Not only is it important to have the fluid line on the outside of the shade, but it's important on the inside as well. And if you'll notice that we put all of our solder on the inside, reinforcing the product so that it becomes stronger and it's much more finished looking. And that's the sign of a Quoizel collectible. This is the Primrose design, and it's an excellent example of a more intricate design. It's made with over 2,000 pieces of individually cut art glass. But what makes it truly unique is the fact that it's made up of multicolor art glass designs. You'll see here purples and browns in combinations with yellow.